Critique My Customs. This is your host, or I'm your host, Brock, and we have something completely different. I've been kicking around this idea because of the numerous questions that I get asked on a daily basis on either critique, what do you think about this? How should I do this? What do you think that, what paints do you use, etc. So I thought that I would have a show where I would bring it out to the public. If you were interested in getting your custom critique, you can use the hashtag, I almost said This Week in Customs. I'm so used to saying that. Critique My Custom. And then I, along with some other customizers, will assist you. The whole point of this show is to take a look at the custom in a critical way. So if you get boo-boo faced easy, this is definitely not something I want you to submit your custom to. If you don't want to be critiqued, do not submit it to hashtag critique my custom. It's going to be constructive criticism. So joining me today I should say, we have Symbiote Seeker, who's muted right now, Ace Outlaw Customs, and Draw Customs. They're all customizers that have been featured on This Week in Customs. So why don't we go around and say what's up? Let's start with Symbiote Seeker. Say hello to the world, peeps.
What's up, guys? Thanks for joining us.
All right. And then we have, and Jamie, where can they reach you? Where they can find you?
You can hit me up on YouTube, Symbiote Seeker, or you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm on there. I'm pretty much on Instagram most of the time, so that's probably the best time. Hit me up.
Very good. And then we have Ace Outlaw Customs.
Yo, Ace. There's someone talking to you.
Yo, I don't think I can hear you, man.
It's like he thinks he's talking to a female right now, so he's
he's hitting up all the ladies, man.
All right,
with the señoritas.
I don't know how you can talk right now, Ace. Go ahead. Oh my gosh! All right, moving on to Draw Customs.
Hello.
Tell us where they can find you on social media.
You can find me in Draw Customs in Instagram. I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't have a laptop, so you're never gonna see videos from me.
Where are you located right now? Literally right now.
Right now, I am in Ensenada, Baja California, Mexico. And I hope you like this video.
All right, so Draw Customs in Mexico. Symbiote Seeker, who's an Englishman, he's actually in Australia. And then the guy right there in the lower half to the right, Ace Outlaw Customs. Can you hear me?
Bro, where's your mic?
Oh my gosh.
You're mute.
You've got to be kidding. We only tested this. All right, well, anyways, so the premise.
What? Huh?
Oh my gosh, I almost kicked myself out. I'm using new software, Google Hangout.
Dude.
Google Hangout. Well, shoot, Ace didn't want to talk. All right. So for the first episode, I have 5 of my first customs that I did. I uploaded them to Instagram. If you're interested and you want to see in the event that this isn't clear, we are going to be critiquing those customs. It's going to be carte blanche. And Ace, can you really talk, or are you messing around?
He's talking with the señoritas, I think. He don't want to talk.
This is really awkward. All right, we're going to move on. Ace is not able to talk for some reason. I don't know what's up. So let me start sharing the screen. Tell me when you can see the first custom that I did. This is going to be a Wolverine. This is going to be a Wolverine. This was way back in 2015. It was my first custom. It was the first custom that I did. I had absolutely zero clue, but I did a whole kit bash on it. I painted it. It was all hand painted. It sounds like Ace may be online now. Oh my gosh, he's freezing. Like, is this what you do when you go and talk to a female? Ace, are you there? Dude, this is brutal. All right, let's get going.
Say something, Ace.
Ace is going to
get... I can literally only hear Jamie.
Oh, come on.
Oh my gosh.
There we go. There we go.
Wait, you can hear me?
I can hear you, man.
What the heck? I can't hear Brock. I don't know if any of you can. So.
Come on, man.
All right, so this is my first custom.
So you can hear me, Aiden.
This is already
Or
going
Ace,
really
right?
well
Not
because Ace.
Brock.
Here, I'm gonna kick Ace out of the chat. He's being removed. Oh my gosh! Hold on.
Dude, I
Let's
could
start
actually
over.
hear him. Could you guys hear him?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Well, I was talking the whole time. We're back online right now. I kicked him out. Let's see if kicking him out, because this is a really bad beginning to the show.
It's like
Okay,
the
let's-
first custom, man.
Let's just
Come on.
let's go ahead and go without him. Let's begin this critique. And again, the point of this critique is constructive. There are going to be some good things. There's going to be a lot of bad things, and we'll see what the boys say.
All right, you going to kick it off, David, or
Yeah, here we go. Go for it, Jamie.
David or me?
You, man. You go
Me?
first.
You want me to kick off? All right, so he's got a black base body, yeah? I wouldn't have personally gone with that because you're doing yellow and brown, yeah? So yellow and brown, you want to hit it with a gray, if possible, as a primer.
Right.
Also, I'm just checking through the photos here. Your kit bash wasn't half bad, honestly. I mean, what year was this from?
This was from 2015. Let me show the picture of what he's talking about. And this is what he's talking about, that I went with a black primer. And Jamie, Symbiote Seeker, let me just use your handle. What about the black primer do you think it's problematic for this?
Well, the problem is when you're hitting it with yellow, that takes a long time to get that back. You know what I mean? I don't know if you airbrushed it or hand painted it, but definitely yellow is tricky to paint, and you basically made that harder for yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Made it super hard. Remember, this is literally my first custom that I ever did, and I agree with you, because let's take the finished product. So this is the yellow that I got. I mean, if I would have gone what you said, a gray or a white to paint the yellow, it would have made it easier to build the layers on. And one of those things that I just want to jump on, just the paint alone. And you look at the paint here. To me, the paint actually doesn't look too bad as far as thickness goes. Although this is all hand brushed. This is before I even thought that I would ever do anything crazy like this, because this is well beyond my abilities at the time. And painting that yellow over the black was definitely difficult.
Yeah, but we've got to remember, this is your first custom, right? So, man, if you saw my first custom, which actually was a Wolverine, which was basically like this as well.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that was a train wreck too, man. It's just what it is. You know, first customizer, you know, that's how you get into the game. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be amazing. But this is a pretty decent start. I mean, the sculpt work at the boots, did you sculpt those? Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look at here's some of the boot right there. Like, I'm looking at that, and I just want to say, so when you guys submit a custom, and I'm going to keep this picture up here, when you guys submit a customs for critique, you're going to have to give me an idea, because you're not necessarily going to be live with me at this point. Maybe at some future time, I'll bring the customizers that are submitting it, and then we'll talk. Because I used Aves epoxy on these boots. If I had to do it again, I would most likely use Procreate for especially the cuffs right there to make them a little bit on the flexible side. Let's see, Ace is popping back on here. Let's see if he's able to jump in this time. We'll see if it works or not. But I would have used Procreate putty, just because now if I drop this and one of those sides, and sometimes the customs will fall, the boot will easily chip.
Yeah, you said Aves epoxy. I've never personally used that. It's basically the same as Milliput. That stuff is real difficult to use, man. It is brittle as, like, we're talking like seriously brittle. Unless you do large amounts of sculpt, you're gonna have an issue with it, because it's really, I know I said it, but it's brittle, man. Like you said, if you drop that, man, it'll just crack straight up. Unless you lay it on thick. If you're doing like most of the body using Aves epoxy, then you're fine. But little details, nah. I would stick with like green stuff, or what's that other one you other boys use? The one that's common in America. That's the one.
Yeah.
Procreate. Yeah, because it's more of a rubber. It's more of a plastic texture. So yeah. And also, if you're going to start doing sculpting, even though the first time you sculpt onto the body, it's going to look like a mess. with that stuff, like I mentioned, green stuff and Aves, is it Aves?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
Procreate, whatever it is. You want to use like a knife, a real sharp knife, to clean those edges to make it look more professional, if you can, if you have that kind of ability.
Well,
Just a-
and I'll tell you, this was literally the first time I ever put any sculpt on anything. This is, I mean, again, like I said, back in 2015, the recipe I was on Figure Realm, just like a lot of you guys are on Figure Realm, and there's a customizer there by it goes by the name of Toy Cooker, and he had a similar recipe. I didn't do exactly what he did because I ended up going with just with the parts that I had available. But there you can see my recipe. And Jamie, you were going to talk about the kit bash. I used the Series 3 Toy Biz Wolverine head. I used an indestructible Hulk, torso, arms, and upper thighs. So right here, this right here. And then I ended up using saber-tooth calves. And like thinking back, going back in the day, why would I have used these saber-tooth calves? And I bet you that Toy Cooker, he just had it in his fodder bin and he thought it would work well for his custom, so he did it. I tried to just use what he did, so I had to go out and buy these figures. Now I wouldn't necessarily do that. I would go to my fodder bin and then try to figure out what works best. But this was just, I was a brand new customizer. I literally no experience. So I tried to use a recipe that was well beyond my ability because I had to sculpt. I had to join a lot of these different body parts that is not easy to do, right, when you're first trying to do it. And I also extended the torso of that indestructible Hulk because it actually, I lifted the torso using a Rebel Tech joint. And what else did I use? Bat Rock feet, and then sculpting is what I said. So Jamie, what was your point on the kit bash?
Yeah, so the kit bash, back in the day, this was super common. Like you said, Toy Cooker. I've seen heaps of people on Figure Realm. That's where I started. They did this similar thing. This is super common.
Very good. Draw Customs, anything to add on this figure?
Yeah, for the critique. First of all, man, thank you again for trusting in my judgment. So this figure,
Well, that remains to be seen. Let's see what you say.
well, for me, the first time I saw this one, I look at the boots, and man, yeah, that lines. I know, I know what is that problem, man? The apes epoxy is, like Jamie said, is good for I don't know, like form a body, armor,
Not
some
for
other
details.
pieces.
So that like
Yeah.
for bigger parts, not for
Yeah,
details.
for bigger parts, no
Right.
details, because I know that I literally I buy one bottle of Aves, and I just put it on all my customs, and they one day they fall off and they broke.
Right.
Yeah, so I was looking on your videos, and you show the Procreate. I buy it, and I was going to I start to use it for the little details, and that one, I think you should take a knife or a sand paper and sand it a little bit for better results, for straight lines.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, but it's a great one. It's a great custom. If you see my first custom, you will laugh, man. I wasn't making anything different. I just grab paint and just put brush some paint on the figure. But that
Hey, hold on a second. Let me stop you. Ace, is that you and the music in the background?
No, that's not me. I don't know if you
No.
can hear me.
Oh,
Can you hear
now
me?
I can hear. Yeah, finally.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ace
Yeah.
Outlaw Customs.
you
We're
doing?
able to finally hear.
Yeah,
Ace, what is your commentary on this so we can move on? Hopefully, we'll do a little bit better job on the next one. That was a rough start.
I mean, some of it I heard, some I didn't hear.
Sure.
Obviously, for that time, I did similar things with a lot of those. Were they called Marvel Universe or Marvel? I forget what they called them.
Yeah, I think it's the universe figures.
The only good use of those figures, in my point of view, is for smaller character customs,
Right.
which you did here, and I just did for Rocket Raccoon. I'm not quite sure what parts they reference other than the sculpt. Like you said, Aves, I use that a lot.
Would you have used Aves for those boot cuffs?
Let me scroll over real quick. Probably not in hindsight now.
Right.
Because I like my green stuff. I have yet to use the Procreate. I have it. I just have yet to use it.
So green stuff, I haven't used green stuff, but I think Procreate's made by the same company.
Yeah.
So it has a property where you mix half and half, and depending on how you mix it, you can mix it 60-30, that's percentages, and then you can make it more flexible. Is that how green stuff works?
Yeah, it does. And a brand of it is made by the same company. The real name is like a Needite, blue and yellow, but green stuff is the key term. But yeah, I like that for a lot of detail because it's forgivable. Like Aves, you could get a lot of detail in Aves.
Yeah.
But it's so easy. You're like, all right, finish that arm. Let me work on the other, and then you just run your finger right through the whole hour.
Yeah,
of work.
because and for those of you that are listening, Aves has a slower curing time than like a Procreate or probably a green stuff to what he's talking about. I think when I've worked with Procreate, and it hasn't been very much, it's like about an hour time before I'm not able to form it how I want it. You have about an hour's work time. Is that what you guys have experienced using green stuff in Procreate?
Yeah, with Aves, it's more of like a creamy type. It's literally like a clay or a Play-Doh, and you need to use a lot of water to blend it in real nice. I prefer it for fine smoothing when I'm like smoothing two pieces together because you could get a perfect flat surface, seamless, to say. Green stuff is very forgivable. Like you could accidentally bump your finger in it, and it'll leave a fingerprint, but you could easily
it won't destroy the form.
Yeah, it almost feels like a rubber, similar to Procreate, but.
All right.
I also like using it for inside joints to add a little friction if I'm hooking in arms and stuff.
All right, let's move on to the next custom because we spend way too much time on that one. I think typically how I want, and maybe we'll have less customizers on next time, and then somebody whose equipment actually functions. Ace, you're going to be doing push-ups for this later. But anyways, let's move on to this Black Panther. This was my second custom. This was done back in 2015. I was actually working on this custom concurrently with that Wolverine. What are your thoughts on it as you guys see it spin around?
That's a great result, man. That's a great kit badge, and it looks great. For me, it looks great. It's a easy figure to do because it's all black. You just need to put a little bit of highlights, like I don't know, dry brush on the paint, and that's gonna look good. So if you have a lot of fodder or like open hands, the head, you just only paint black, dry brush, give it some highlights. If you want to put the belt, if you want to put the belt some gold, but it looks great for me. That your Black Panther looks great for me.
What about Jamie? What do you say?
The whole concept behind this was you didn't want to buy the original A.
Correct.
Which I totally get coming from a
Wait a
country
second.
where
Am I screen sharing, by the way? I'm not even screen sharing.
Nah, you're not. I got it up on the computer. It's all good.
The people that are in the chat they're probably going, "What the heck is this guy? What are they talking about? What's Draw Customs talking about?" Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, go for it. Symbiote Seeker. Keep going with your thoughts.
Yeah. So you wanted it because you couldn't afford it, or you just didn't want to pay, or whatever.
Well, the Black Panther that was available, you had the Toy Biz Black Panther, and then the one that Hasbro did later, and it was going like for $90 at the time.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, man. Yeah,
I
it's just a bucket
pay.
Cap. Anyone can do it.
Yes.
You just buy the black parts. Anybody can do this custom. It's straightforward, simple.
Yes.
You can't really mess it up either because the head sculpt, like, it's just what better. Like, you get the original head, or where did you get that from?
I bought it looks like I paid $12 probably on eBay. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, it was $7 on eBay, and I paid $12 for the Bucky Cap body at the time on Amazon.
Yeah. So did you end up using Bucky Cap as the upper body?
Here's
Yeah. So
right
see,
here.
the only problem with that is because you've chosen Bucky, he's got blue, so those shoulders can be quite painful to Dremel out if you're a beginner.
Right.
I wouldn't have gone that route, but the rest of the body is black, so no paint rub, so no prep work. Plus, you've also got, the sculpt there to make it look a bit more beefy, so it doesn't look exactly like Bucky Cap. Bucky Cap's just...
One of the things I did do on this figure, you can see the Spider-Man 2099, and people that don't have this figure are going, "Oh, I can't believe he used a Spider-Man 2099." It was cheap back then. It wasn't. It was like a regular figure, $17.
Yeah,
but
I never got one.
You never see? There you go.
No.
You didn't get one, but I had
Never.
them. I had them, and I think I may have had an extra one. And I used the lower legs. I don't know. I say here, these were just notes that I had taken. I just put it on here, but it looks like I wanted better articulation. I thought that the Spider-Man 2099, for whatever reason, that's the Pizza Spidey buck, right? Or
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I thought that it would give me better articulation for this figure than the Bucky Cap, and I don't know if that's necessarily true.
I mean, in this day and age, that'd be super easy to do. Like, you could easily get any kind of black Bucky base body at this point now, and you can actually get the symbiote Spider-Man that's super cheap as well. That's literally like a $20 kit bash nowadays.
Yeah, and when I first saw this, when you briefly posted, I never saw this custom before by you.
Right.
And funny, ironically enough, you literally used a Bucky Cap. But at the time when making this, what was this, 2015 you said?
Yeah.
Bucky Cap was like the bee's knees for molds, so it makes sense that you made it at this time.
Well, I paid $12 for the figure. It was $12, and
and by the paint that was covering all the stuff, I almost didn't realize that you had sculpted on the arms and thighs until I scrolled over, because I hear you a lot of times. You say you're not that you don't sculpt that much, so I assumed you didn't sculpt as much on your original customs, but you did, and I do like the thicker thighs into the smaller shins for a Black Panther, like an agile character, and I assume by looking at it, it would give it more range because they're the smaller.
I think it's because it's a smaller calf, right? The smaller calf of the Spidey, it was able to give me more range going. I guess bending the leg. But I want to point out some criticisms of my sculpting that I immediately noticed. You notice here, the picture I'm showing, the edges, they're not really formed to the arm. And of course, I was, it's forgiven in the sense because of the color that I end up using. It masks it really well. Like right there, you can see the back of the arm. It does mask it.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, go for it, Jamie.
Yeah, so like the way that these muscles are done are god awful. You literally just plopped sculpt onto the back of that. There's no musculature definition whatsoever, but that can be easily remedied, man. If you plop sculpt on, that's no big deal, man. You can literally get a knife or a sculpting tool and just carve it in. Easy days, man. Easy days.
So for somebody that's just starting out using sculpt, and it's going to look like this, right? I mean, like you can look at the thigh, the quadricep right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can see where I'm starting to form the quadricep, but this is just the beginning, right?
What a really good advice would be, if you plan on doing these type of things, is just Google male anatomy, and bring it up. Not that
male anatomy.
Just look in,
don't go to your sides, man.
Don't get creepy on me. I did it with absolute carnage on back. You have to type in, the proper search engine. Don't do any dodgy of that stuff, man. Kids watching.
Yeah.
All right, so what
you just made it weird, Ace.
He's been making it weird since the beginning of this show. He's gonna have to pay for this one. But anyways, so from right there, one of the things that I've recently some other customizer advised me on it. You can use rubbing alcohol. Fingerprints
by Matthew suggested that, especially for Procreate. Rubbing alcohol works better for smoothing it in.
Right.
Whereas water works great for Aves and such.
alcohol, yeah.
That's one thing I'd recommend for this, based on seeing the sculpt, using a good rubber tool and a good amount of water and constantly smoothing that in.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems, other than the forming of the muscle, that this I did not smooth in the biceps or the quadriceps. The result on the figure is not, again, it's not super ultra noticeable because of the color I chose, but it is noticeable, right? People that have been doing customs can go and go, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. But that's okay. It's a beginner. And when you're a beginner, one of the things that you can do to improve is when you're first putting it down and that putty is curing, you can smooth it out onto the figure so that you don't have to do a lot of sanding later. Obviously, you can fix a lot of things with sanding. And then like what Symbiote Seeker was saying, you could also use a tool to edge in those muscles. And then you can later, if you screw it up a little bit, you can go back over it with some sculpt to smooth it in to make it look more natural. Any last thoughts on this, guys? Anybody want to hop in here?
Yeah, and one thing, like you said, the paint job did kind of hide a lot of the imperfections because you used the dry brushing technique.
Right.
I know probably these days you probably wouldn't use that technique. You'd probably use your airbrush you have.
Right. Yeah, I would have gone with an airbrush if I had to do it. Also, I would have prepped the joints. There's no joint prep. Matter of fact, all these figures that I'm showing, I literally did no joint prep, and you'll see them in coming customs. But this one, for whatever reason, I did not get that much paint rub. And what's mentioned in the chat, by the way, we have 51 people in the chat. Thank you for joining us. We're going to continue with this, talking about this. We'll address questions later. This is going to be an unusual show because this is going longer than I really wanted it to be, but that's just how it goes for first times. So the thing that works here is I put like a blue hue. I dry brushed a bunch of different blues on this figure. So even if it starts chipping out the shoulder, you won't be able to tell that much. But fair enough.
But always joint prep. Always joint prep.
Always joint prep.
Always take the time to joint prep. Every single one of you.
You got away with it this time, but other customizers will critique you, if not out loud, to themselves. They'll be yelling at you.
Always smooth your Aves epoxy and your Procreate.
Do what?
Always take your fingertip, put some little bit of water, and smooth all the edges. Right. If you're sculpting muscles, if you're sculpting armor, try to smooth anytime.
All right, so then we skip a little bit forward. This was the 5th custom I did.
Come on, man. I love it.
Oh, son of a gun. I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's how I broke mine.
I was so frustrated when that happened. It wasn't like I could jump. My shoulders are still jacked up. But anyway, so this is the 5th custom I did. And now it's been several months because I wasn't doing many customs. Obviously, I just did a few. And now this is my first custom of 2016. Who wants to hop in and critique?
Man, I love the kit badge. I love the kit badge. I love the concept you use for Ares. It's very mythological. And yeah, the mod you use for the torso, the bulldozer, works great on him. And the colors, great. They're great too. Yeah, I think you. I think I saw.
It pains me every single time he falls over.
Yeah. I think you use the thighs of that Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you modify it. You put it like the regular joints.
Yeah. So the kit bash was I used bulldozer as the torso right here. You guys can see it. Yeah. I used the lower waist and legs of Thor. I used, you can't really see it here, but you can see I'm modifying. This is, again, stretching my ability. This is not something I've ever done before. This is the first time I ever cut a peg and spliced it.
And that's it, man. You said it was the early days of customizing. This has got some heavy splicing. It's got some massive kit bashing. This isn't like novice, area. This is definitely intermediate at this point now.
Yeah, but let me tell you, I spent hours and hours trying to figure this out because I really did not have like what we have now. We have a community. I mean, if you hashtag this week in customs, you see like hundreds and hundreds of other customizers putting stuff out, and you can go and ask them questions, right? Back then, the medium wasn't, Figure Realm. I was on Figure Realm, but it wasn't so easy to get a hold of those guys that were submitting. And sometimes they just wouldn't answer back, right? For whatever reason. That was just my personal experience. But this was hard, like super difficult for me. And it was way more than I was comfortable doing. And it wasn't like, oh, shoot, I can go and contact Ace like I can now. It's like, hey, man, I'm stuck on this custom. What the heck should I do, right? With other, talk to other, I didn't have peers. I think now with some of the years, and especially just being on, I think Instagram's a really good medium for that. You can go and ask, but I was really frustrated doing this custom.
I think Aries is definitely one of the harder customs you can actually achieve in the customizing community because of the fact that it's all armor, and armor is probably the hardest thing to sculpt, man. I would put Aries as a top tier custom, in terms of how difficult it is to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this wasn't a classic looking Ares. This was just a concept. I wanted to make him look like a Roman soldier. And I remember being at a swap meet, and I ended up buying Gangris Riverpaw, which is a World of Warcraft figure. And that thing is awesome. Matter of fact, I'm finally using that head years later on a figure that I'm just, it's going to be very similar to this. Let's see what I have in my fodder bin and go. What the heck happened there? So talk about what are some things, you mentioned the armor, and I can't really take credit for the armor because a lot of this was Gangris Riverpaw that I took off of him.
Yeah, you shortcutted it, but a lot of people will do that.
Oh, gosh, that pains me every single time.
Are those legs from the Lord of the Rings stuff, or is that from that Genghis whatever guy?
Oh, so the legs.
Is that Urukai?
Yeah, that is an Urukai.
Okay.
Let me see if I show it right there. So I did end up using parts of the leg, right? I cut here. I'm just taking it off, and I spliced it onto the calves or onto the ankles here. So that way he could have sandals, right?
Mandals, yeah.
What do you call them?
Oh, mandals.
Mandals. Okay, that's a new term. Must be a Florida thing. But again, like look at the hand. There's no joint prep here. I didn't sand this down. Now normally if I were to look at work on a figure, this is the prep work that nobody really enjoys doing. It's really messy. It gets all over the place. And for me, I'm at my workbench, aka the kitchen table, so it's going all over my kitchen. And
prep work is enough to put anybody off, man. Prep work is so frustrating, man. It takes so much time. It's the worst part of customizing for sure.
Mm-hmm. Because by the time you're done prepping it, you kind of get tired of the figure.
Yeah, man. You get over it hard out.
Yeah, painting is the fun part.
Dude, and the sculpting.
Yeah, the
sculpting and painting is the funniest part. Yeah. and the joint prep, I literally dropped one of my customs because I have to prep a lot. I was prepping. I was like 2 hours of prep, and I took the custom and I said, F this. Come on. I don't want to do it.
Hey, man, try prepping an Omega Red 6 times over. Woo, hey, that's enough to put anybody off.
Hey, man, can you replicate that too?
Exactly? And that's it.
All right, any final parts? We're going to see Aries fall down here. Any final critiques on this?
I guess it's not really critique, but more of a preference. I know a lot of times these days, I do like that skin tone you painted. I know a lot of times these days people don't like ball joints when it comes to customs.
Oh, yeah.
I know
that's a good point.
The British Australian there doesn't specifically.
They're too outdated, dude. Way too outdated. They shouldn't be used at all now.
With this, you could almost not see them on some of the pictures because that kilt thing kind of hides it. So
yeah, and I am of the same opinion, but I think it's for functionality. And when we get to the last custom that we look at, and we may want to just skip there because we're already 34 minutes into this thing, even though we still have 49 people in here. I think if you want a lot, a big range of movement on a figure, like maybe, and if you can hide the ball joints, then I think you're good to go. But I think if you're just showing them, I don't think they look good. And the other thing with ball joints is they can fail. So let me see what I have here. I think we're going to skip this Deadpool, and we're going to go to the final custom, and then we can talk about the ball joints right now. This is a problem figure. So shoot, guys, shoot from the hip.
It's a midget.
Yeah, no, it's a midget. Yeah, it's a little man, that's for sure.
I guess.
I mean, let's face it, the parts are terrible. Absolutely awful. I don't know why you chose those parts at all, man. Like,
Which
I know
parts
it was
are you
back in
talking
the
about?
day.
Was that
I'm
the
on
ball
about
joint?
all of them, dude. They're all Toy Biz. Is this like how long ago is this, man?
You see,
Is that
twins.
Juggernaut?
Come on, man.
Juggernaut legs, I think, and Maestro Hulk upper body.
Yeah,
never mind. I see in the other photos. I see now.
Yeah, so here's a still photo, so we can look. I'll tell you right now, if I had to. All right, so for this time, this is my custom number 7, and I was in that group, and I finally remembered what I was trying to say on the live feed the other time when I was talking about the world's greatest customizers, and it was on the heels of, thinking your work being better than it actually is. For me, for that time, this was probably the best figure that I did, because the kit bash was very difficult, and I was able to get it, and we'll talk about the kit bash. But this custom was entered into their contest. I didn't enter it. Somebody entered it for me, and it got 0 votes. 0.
Yeah, they're pretty.
But that's the thing, man. I remember seeing this in Figure Realm and thinking, wow, that's really decent. Because what year did you say this one was?
This was in 2016.
2016. So we did have fairly okay parts by then, but the bigger characters were still lacking. So this is still pretty well done. And not only that, the paint apps as well. For a larger character, Apocalypse is definitely difficult to pull off. Like, he's not an easy character to... I mean, even the Toy Biz, not the Toy Biz, the Hasbro one that we got, it's not amazing. It's good, but it's not amazing. This is still, respectable. Ball jointed hips. I was actually going to use these on a newer custom, and you told me, don't do it, man. Yeah. Because we still haven't got, we got Hulk, who's holding up my phone right now. I mean, what year are we in? 2019, and we're only starting getting non-ball jointed larger characters? Like, come on, man. So this is respectable, man. This is respectable.
Well, here's the problem with using ball jointed hips on this particular figure. Like what Ace already said, this is the Maestro Hulk upper body, and it's spliced together with a first appearance Hulk abdomen that's connected to a Juggernaut, Toy Biz Juggernaut lower body. So the upper body is very heavy. So these ball hips have failed on me over and over again. And if you look carefully at here, you're going to see something blue inside his crotch area. You see that right there in the ball joint? You see that, all that mess, that gunk right there?
Yeah.
That gunk is hot glue. I was trying to use something right here, this part right here. I was trying to use something to make that ball joint stop. I couldn't. At that time, I wasn't able to figure out something to make it. I was using Future Floor Polish. It wasn't happening because it's not the hinge that's the problem. It's the peg that goes into the crotch. And the way that they do these ball jointed hips, that it's a peg that goes into the crotch area, and that's just way too loose. So it's just too little of an area to hold that big of a beast. So I've had this guy fall over, and he's limited in obviously the pose that I can put him in. And there you can see these are the parts that I used. I used the Maestro upper, and then I used this lower abdomen piece, which I spliced onto here somehow. I don't remember how the heck I did it, but I was able to do it. And here's the biggest point here, guys. If you're a new customizer and you want to, and you're serious about customizing, this is something that you're going to be doing, you've been doing repaints or whatever, and you want to start kit bashing, splicing, whatever you want to call it, do not get yourself this one from Harbor Freight. I paid $10 for that little drill. That's what I was working with. and cutting stuff open. So I did so much work. And then once we're done here, I'll show you some of the equipment that I use. But I was using that little drill, which has its place, but not to cut big figures like this.
A lot of people think that you have to spend a lot of money on these things, man. You should see the stuff I'm using. This is my knife. Like,
We can't see that. They can't see it.
They can't see anything.
No, they can't see. They're just seeing the screen right now. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to those equipment.
Like, you don't need expensive tools at all.
No.
One of the things that I think, again, this back area is not very clean. I could have definitely cleaned that up, made it look a lot smoother. What I did there is, you can see that's the old Omega Red, and I spliced the old Omega Red where those wires port into. Let me see if I have a picture. No, I guess maybe I don't have a picture of how the thing goes into the back. Where is it? I may have it over here. There you go. So I'm using the Omega Red's tentacles that go in here. That's where his wrists were. So I thought that was good. But if you look at something here that bothers me just looking at it right now, is you see the torso, the upper torso, how it's different from the abdomen, how it's different from like the pant legs. So the torso is a different, what do you call it? Has a different layering than the abdomen. It doesn't make sense. You see how it's smooth in the abdomen, and then it's got lines. The master.
Oh
Yeah,
the texture. Yeah.
The texture. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. So I think now if I had to do it again, I would probably either smooth out the upper body or I would texture the belly. Because that
just buff it out,
and then smooth that sculpt, and then
the easiest way is smoothing the sculpt. Yeah.
and throwing it at a wall.
It looks great primed gray anyway.
Yeah, but then the problem with here, it didn't stay. Obviously I was working in red, and I don't know if you guys caught this or not on the video. I'm sure you guys caught it, but look at his foot right here. No joint prep.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if this type of joint, if it would work if you were to shave that down, or maybe it would.
It's hard to. You'd have to do it to the foot itself, not that actual joint.
So I would have had to pop that foot out. Yeah. It would. So if you guys have this and you're working and you want to use this boot for whatever reason, what you'll want to do is take the shoe off and then shave inside the shoe and create that space. But guys, if you do that, won't this be too loose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
give you more
suggest
range.
not using it at all. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's hard with the Toy Biz stuff because a lot of their stuff is friction. What made it? It's not, or some stuff is friction. Some they have a bunch of teeth they like to put in their crotches and stuff to get to work. And when you joint prep, it loses all its stiffness and ruins it, kind of.
All right. So I think that's any further words on this custom? Final words?
How did you get the blue to be that blue? What
Shoot, I'm trying to remember what paints I mixed, but it was so long ago I didn't take notes on it. I don't know, but that's for me it's kind of like a standout feature, that blue that I got. So obviously it's a metallic blue.
Yeah, like
because you said that was the 7th custom or 6th custom you've ever
7th.
had? Yeah, 7th custom. I've only just started learning how to use metallic blues, and I've been doing it for over 10 years. So that says it all, kind of.
Yeah, I think likewise.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know if this wasn't really, the way I would achieve something like this now, I would chrome it at the bottom and then I put a clear blue over it. That's one of my favorite ways to do metals.
Yeah, definitely. Chrome is the way to go now.
Yeah, doing a chrome underneath a base layer and then painting a clear over it. But then you also have metallic paints. I don't remember what this was. I know it was either Citadel. It was most likely some sort of Citadel paint that I used. I can't remember which.
Could be a Model Master silver too.
I don't know if you ever. I don't know
those mini testers.
No, I don't think I ever had a Model Master silver. I really don't know what that was. All right, so Did we lose somebody? Oh yeah, draw customs. We lost draw customs. Okay,
Sorry.
hey, back in line. All right, so this is 45 minutes long because it's already a long episode. There's people in the chat. If you have custom related questions, go ahead. But sorry for the early. We had some technical difficulties, which kind of set us off, and it's the first time that we're ever going live together. I think any future ones will be a little bit smoother as anything goes. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But
And first time on this service too. We used
this is a new. It's called StreamYard, and I like it. It's not too difficult. But we have people in the chat. Let me run down the chat. Let me see who's up in here. Let me just go up.
Man, Markai Lab Creations is blowing up the chat, man. Check him out, bro.
Markai Lab. What he's? Oh no! Hey, be careful you don't fall off your roof, player.
Damn, I wasn't even reading off this stuff.
No, there's what's up, Travis Smith, T-Man? What is going on? Leyenda, Soul Molester? That's an interesting name, player. Brett, what's up? I'm saying, let me see who else is up in here. Roundhead Collector, Solo Hunter, Kilo Echo, what is up? Weapon X Customs.
Oh, we've even got Eric
Them guts. Them guts. Kick Toy, what's up? Tech Chucker. Who else is up? Michael Villarreal. All right, I think Freddie Frecky is up in here too. Who else am I missing? All right, here we go. Rudy's saying what's up. He's driving. All right, if there's no questions, I think we're gonna. Okay, Devin Kavanaugh is asking, is priming important? Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
It depends. If you have. Oh, there goes.
Oh my god,
dude! How many times can you draw this?
Oh my gosh.
Blame Hulk.
All right, go ahead. Why is priming important?
Damn, dude.
I'd say sometimes I don't always do it, honestly. It depends if you already have a base plastic. That's the base color. Also, it depends on what paint you use. For model master.
Aiden, can you entertain us and answer this in one of your accents, please? In your English accent? Your pirate? Do your pirate. You can do it.
Come on.
Look, I put him on the spot. Oh, it's like he's talking to him on the spot, man.
I don't prime my figures all the time. I tend, especially with the model masters, because they cure somewhat like a plastic. And their color, like yellow, white. I suggest priming because you could get a better layers. Like, because if you're painting white on top of a purple and a blue and whatever, you could see that in your finished product, and unless you need to do more layers. But if you're painting a matte black on something, you don't need to prime at all. Most model masters are acrylics that aren't the cheapo kind. You don't need to prime. That's fine. Especially with good joint prep, you don't need to prime a lot of colors.
All right, let me throw that over to David. You answer that question.
Yeah, for me, I don't use Model Masters, Citadel, Vallejo priming because it's not cheap here. I buy the Doppelcolor vinyl and I use it for priming.
Hold on, I gotta translate. I gotta translate for the rest of the group because I got a quick story, and we're gonna get back to David. So when I came to this country, my parents, when I would get sick, they would put Viva Porru on my chest. Viva Porru, Viva Porru. And when I started dating my wife, one time she was sick, so I go, oh, I know exactly what you need. You need to do some inhalations with Viva Porru. So we go to Save-Ons or something like that, and we start looking. I can't find the Viva Porru. I asked the lady, do you have any Viva Porru? And they don't know what the heck it is. So finally, I find the container and I grab it and I look at it, and it's Vicks Vapor Rub. So getting back to David, getting back to what David is saying, what he's saying, he uses Duplicolor vinyl paint.
Duplicolor vinyl paint. Yeah. you can buy it on AutoZone or you're on Amazon if you want it. It's more easy. Yeah, I use it for priming. And I always use when I start to customize. I always use the black primer, and when I started painting like like I don't know, like yellows, white,
Mhm.
I was it was hard because the that colors you need a lot of layers to stay to let it to see the yellow one above the black primer. So
Right.
later I know I went to see more videos, and I know there is a great primer, and how can I use it? So like Ace said, if you have a base body, I don't know, like a black base body, like the new Black Panthers or the vintage Black Panthers, just need to I don't know, like even not use don't use, how can I say, the paint rub.
Dilo en español, chico, yo te ayudo.
Oh, ok, mira, cuando tienes un cuando, cuando tienes un cuerpo base del color de la figura que tú quieres usar, que quieres hacer, no es necesario estar este
Saying
haciendo.
he's essentially saying if you want to have a body like mine, you have to hit the gym and work out with a lot of weights. So got you, David. So listen. So what Mark Eye Lab Creations is the reason why I like to use primer, because it does give that paint is able to adhere to the body, and then it kind of, what he says, that it gives teeth to the following paint
Yeah, it just
to
depends on the
stick.
paint.
And it does depend on the paint, because what Ace is saying, some of the Model Master paint, there's some different quality of Model Masters that
Yeah, all of them
it
are set
adheres
differently.
better. Yeah, and if you have good, if you have good joint prep and you prep your figure, because a lot of people will tell you wash your figures with warm soap and water. What they fail to tell you is if you're using a soap that has hand moisturizer, it ain't gonna work.
Nope.
Your paint will slip off. So if you're a newer customizer and you're painting and you're having what you're calling paint rub, it's not really paint rub in the, like, if you're going to the joints paint rub, it's the paint's not sticking to your figure. It's because you either you didn't prepare your figure, you washed it, probably you didn't wash it. You should be washing your figures, especially if you're getting it secondhand, because you never know what these dirty dudes are doing with their figures. Wash your figures with a soap that does not have any moisturizer.
Yeah.
And secondly, if you're not using a primer, because some paints just it won't stick well. Jamie, thoughts on that?
Yeah. If you sanding down a figure, most of the time the paint's gonna stick. Most of the time, I think you should use gray. It doesn't matter what color it is, the base body. If you're using all different types of parts and kind of kit bashing everything and throwing it together, then you're probably gonna have to prime it. You need to sand down the figure. You shouldn't let it sit as is. Like you said, there's chemicals. It needs a bath. There's a couple of things involved in prep that a lot of people aren't aware of. Primer should be used if you have multiple different colors all over the figure.
Yeah.
For example, this thing right here, this thing has to be primed gray after being sanded down. It's just how it is. So the paint can adhere to it better. Other than that, if you're going to use something like this, which is black is a primer. You just want to hit it with black, and you won't need anything else with that. You overspray your details on top of that. Most of the time, you do need a primer, but sometimes you don't. It just really depends on how you're going to do it.
And the
Well, a good
plastic
example
as well.
of primer and
Plastic, plastic.
What's that?
I said it also depends on the plastic too and the primer, because a lot of times I don't like using primer because it adds an extra layer of paint. So I'd suggest using thin layers if you do it. But also, like certain older Hasbro plastics, it's more oily based. So you'll prime it, and that crap will just peel right off and ruin a hour-long paint job. Let's say later on, and you won't even know it. Also, priming, one thing that's good for is if you're doing a lot of sculpt work or a lot of kit bashing, it's a good way to see all imperfections that you've done, rather than painting it all up and seeing a giant hole in the freaking chest where you wouldn't
and
have.
a lot of people don't notice that too. They don't prime it before they sculpt. Sorry, they don't prime it after they've sculpted. So that when they get the figure and they started painting at it and done all the details, they're like, oh, well, it's done now. Even though there's like a massive imperfection on it. No, I already painted it. Nah, dude, that's shortcutting. Make sure you prime it gray or white so you can see all the little imperfections. Go back, sand it down, make it perfect. Don't half-arse it, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I was going to say, if you're using a Toy Biz figure, you got to realize that the way that they made those plastics, I'm forgetting the chemical.
They're brittle, man.
Used. Well, they're brittle, but sometimes you'll feel a Toy Biz or a figure made by Toy Biz, and you'll feel that oil on them. That's actually something that it's for the plastic to make it not brittle. And there's more so in that plastic than in the Hasbro plastic that we're getting today. So if you're getting those figures, you absolutely have to prime that one, or else you're adhering the paint that you're trying to get on there, it won't get on. One of the things that is primes also important, and Symbiote Seeker mentioned it, is you have different color plastics or different color parts. You can look at my thing. You can look at my thing, the thing repaint, and you can look at the video. I had finished. I didn't prime that figure. I just used I prepped it. Obviously I washed it with warm soap and water. I had done the joints. I had dremeled out the joints. I did all that. I painted up the figure. It came out how I wanted. Then my buddy Demonic Poo Creations sent me a 3D printed head that he had sculpted. He sent it to me, and it was primed in gray. So I started with gray with his and orange, the orange base, and I used the exact same paint. And when you go and look at the figure, it is completely. It's a different. Is it tone? Is that the correct word? I'm not sure if it's the right word, but you can tell the difference of, and it ends up working in the custom because the face is different color than the rest of the, your own body. But it was because I started with gray with his and then orange base with the other figure, and I used the exact same paint. So that's why it's important to primer your figure if they have different color plastics. That makes sense?
Yeah. And choose the correct primer color depending on what color paint you're doing. Like you wouldn't want a black primed figure if you're painting a yellow, because they'll start turning it like a mustard.
Which is what I got in that Wolverine. If you look at my Wolverine, that yellow is a mustard yellow.
If you're going to do yellows, you have to go white or gray primer. You have to, man. Right. Otherwise, it's going to take you forever to build that up.
Mark I Lab says, actually, let me see it. Can I show this? Can everybody see this? This is what, look at this. What a cool little thing. This is what he's saying in the chat. I like to personally base everything in black, other than if he's going to paint a lighter color. So he likes either basing it in brown or preferably gray. It'll give you a true yellow.
Right. Like I don't, I said, I hardly ever prime, but I do majority of the time throw on Model Master Black Matte as a base color to make it easier to see crap and paint. So I guess that's technically priming, even though that wasn't my intention. But yeah, I like using black as well, like you said.
All right. Well, that is going to bring us to the end of the show. We're almost gone an hour. I thought this was going to go like 20 minutes. That's so funny. All right. Well, let's sign off. Ace, why didn't you kick us off, since you didn't even tell us where people can find you on social media in the intro?
It was nice being here for...
All right, folks. So let me just translate what Ace is saying. He's single. And he loves females. He's having a tough time in Florida. So if you have any single lady friends in Florida, he'd like to meet. He can be found at Ace Outlaw Customs on Instagram. Jamie can be found at Symbiote Seeker. Jamie, where else? You guys got to check out this guy's videos on YouTube. He does film in 4K. And
4K, man, you can see everything, all the details, everything I do on it.
You can't hide anything. And finally,
you can't hide anything, man. Pictures, no, man. You need the video, 4K.
Yeah, only your voice. I can hear you in your videos, man.
That's it, eh?
And then Draw Customs can be also found by that same name on Instagram. These guys are all customizers that have been doing it for a while. Don't blow up their page. Don't blow them up in the DMs. This is what this is for. If you have questions, if you want to have your custom critiqued on Critique My Customs, use the hashtag, put it up, and hopefully customizers that you have some experience, if you want to answer their custom, because I won't be able to feature obviously the same problem that I have with this Speak in Customs I'll have with this show. I won't be able to feature all the customs that are being hashtagged. Help those people out. Use that hashtag, help them out, and maybe you'll meet a new friend like Ace needs to. All right, folks, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.
He's
Oh my God, I can't believe you